Hi, everybody. I'm Ronnie Shaver from Ronnie's Garage in Southern California. And this is our monthly technical seminar via Zoom. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this list. It's going to be on a 53R type. Yeah, you can get these rubber things here if you need them. I have found some aftermarket ones, but the supplier's spotty. I don't know what they run. I'm pretty sure you can buy them from the reputable people. I will be stocking a lot of parts for these cars. I'm working on building an inventory and be selling parts directly for those of you who are looking for parts for cars. For instance, I've got full set of lug nuts, all the right lug nuts I know in stock, brake lining, stuff like that.
Ronnie, I got a question about tire pressure, if I may ask.
Sure.
So the tire itself has a rating on it that says that it's supposed to not take more than, I think it was, let's pretend it was 2150 pounds at 41 psi. That would be the max.
Right.
So what does that refer to exactly, and how does that relate to checking the air pressure, cold versus hot, and things like that?
Okay, the cold and hot is a different issue, but we'll back up to the, if you look at the tires should say maximum inflation would be the 41 pounds at 2160 load. The load is how much, you know, obviously the weight of the car. Now, if there's 4 tires, you take the weight of the car divided by 4, and that should help you figure out if you've got the right load rating tires.
Right.
Load rating is important on these cars because they're heavy. My recommendation is never to inflate to maximum pressure. It makes the tires not perform as well, plus it makes the car ride rougher. I always recommend you go by the manufacturer of the car. There's modern cars, they all have somewhere, whether the glove box, the trunk, or in the door jamb, they'll have tire pressure ratings, and then they'll have 2 types. Usually they'll either have, you know, fully laden or just, you know, a driver or a couple people, and that's what you want to go by. Now this tire here in particular, the Coker made this, and they want you to run them at 40 psi. Now, that's a lot for one of these cars. It's a radial. The original bias ply tires, I believe they want you to run like 26 in the back and 22 in the front on them. And part of that is so that they track right. They're not squirrely, but I know on these old cars, when you have the bias ply tires and you run them at the recommended rate, you get a lot of washout in turn. So you get a lot of tire squealing. They wear out a lot faster, but they will drive right. That's the thing with those bias. I firmly believe in using radial tires, even though they didn't have them back then. But that's why they didn't use them. They didn't have them back then. If they would have had them back then, they would have used them. And on these ones that Coker says you got to run the high pressure. The most I'll run is like 36 in the back on this, maybe 34, 32 on the front. That's fine. They also make them for silver clouds. We can walk over and look at my car real quick. I've got a Coker makes this. Yes?
As you're transporting there, does the weight? So is the car heavier in the front because of the engine, or not necessarily?
Well, it is until you add a lot of luggage and people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm generally driving alone or just with 1 or 2 people in the back, do you still want to have less pressure in the front than in the back?
I do, because the car handles better, in my opinion. If it were a front-wheel drive car, which none of these are, then you want more up front, because that's where the torque's being applied. But over the years working on these cars, I feel more comfortable putting just a little bit more in the back than in the front. They seem to track better going down the freeway. That's just my opinion. Sure. So right here we have a tire that looks just like an old original bias ply tire. It's got that old look with the ribs, and it's a nice narrow tread pattern on a silver cloud. You've got plenty of clearance here between the hubcap and the tire. The problem when they went to modern tires and they went to the metric sizes and all that kind of stuff is they used to have letter size. You'd have to do a conversion rate, and they go by height and tread width and all that kind of stuff. Many of the white wall tires I see on the Silver Cloud especially are beautiful, but the white wall is right up against that hubcap. And the particular car that the guy lost control of on the freeway, I warned him, hubcaps are cutting into those tires. That's what happens, because a radial tire, the bottom always bulges. So as it's bulging there and the hubcap's going by, you know, right up against it, it's just cutting it each time a little bit more. These are great. I love these things.
Ronnie, two things
Yes.
about the tires. Number one, the Coker tires are made to fit in the boot. A lot of the, if you buy some of them, you know, a modern brand of radial tire, your spare will not fit into the boot. Okay.
Unless you let all the air out, then it's useless.
Exactly.
Right? No, that's fine. And you made a good point about the spare tires, especially on the Silver Cloud. The bias tires that Coker makes that I just showed you on my Bentley S3 are exactly the same dimensions as the old original bias ply. So that's why they fit better. They fit properly. And back to, I think it was Craig's question about hot and cold tire pressures. I like to check them when they're cold. If your factory specs gives you different numbers, that's fine. But I'm not an engineer. And I think it's more important to have the proper or enough air in there instead of not enough. You'd be surprised on how many cars people drive in that have been sitting for a year have 15 pounds pressure in the tire. It's just amazing. So tire pressures are important. And like I said before, these radials, I'll probably run about 36 in the back, 34, 32 in the front. Okay, so let's carry on here before we run out of time. My clock works again, by the way. Amazing what a little bit of battery will do. So now I let the car down, put my fender cover on. We're going to get the oil filter off of this. This is my least favorite part about these cars. So the British engineers, for some reason, thought that an oil filter will never need to be replaced because they put it in a place that is difficult to get to, and it's a canister filter. Okay, let's get the light on it. If you look at it, it's down here, way down there. There, let me get my pointer. So the 6-cylinder cars, they've mounted on the side of the block there, on the right side, underneath the carburetors. And it's a canister filter, so you can't just unscrew it and dump it down the bottom. There it is. There. You got to get this can off right down there. You guys see that? And then, so not only do I have to be a contortionist to get down here under here to get to it, but to get it out, I have to navigate all kinds of linkages. I'm going to pull the windshield washer reservoir out. This, by the way, is non-factory because it looks like a mayonnaise jar. Best Foods. You guys see that? It's Best Foods. So it should say Trico usually, I think is what they are.